I am Terry Scoggin, the Chief Executive Officer of Titus Regional Medical Center in Mount Pleasant, Texas. The #1 cause of death in the United States and the #1 cause of death in Northeast Texas is heart disease. The #1 reason from transfers from our facility in the past has been our lack of investment in the resources needed to treat cardiovascular patients. Studies show the level of damage to the heart muscle is partially determined by the amount of time it takes from injury to treatment. In the past, our closest receiving STEMI center was approximately 60 miles in all directions. Due to all these factors, in 2014, our board, our medical staff, and our executive team made the decision to invest in our cardiovascular service line, resulting in the recruitment of 2 interventional cardiologists, the construction of this new cath lab, and the development of a STEMI program. The investments we have made are saving lives in Northeast Texas. The stories you are about to hear is the reason why we are so excited about what we are doing at Titus for cardiovascular care.
I'm Dennis Parker. I'm 68. I coached for 45 years. I had retired, actually retired, and lived on the 3rd tee box at Waterwood on the golf course in Houston. And I got talked into coming back to my hometown of Idabel, Oklahoma to coach. So I did for 4 years, and December the 8th this year I retired. And we came to see my wife's sister in Longview just to visit. She lives in a nursing home there, and we came down to visit. And before I left that morning, I had lifted weights and worked out, and they had taken me off of Eliquis because I was going to have a prostate biopsy the next Wednesday. And so they had taken me off the Eliquis, and I don't know if that had any, I don't know the medical, whether that had anything to do with it or not. But that morning, I lifted weights. I did 30 minutes on the elliptical and was starting to get back in shape to do this. And I felt bad, but I didn't feel bad enough to go to the hospital or anything like that. So we went to Longview, and we started home from Longview. And I told Mary, I said, you need to drive because I just don't feel like driving. And she said, okay. And so we got about halfway. We actually got to Omaha, and my chest was just squeezing tight, my shoulders. I had a real ache, and since I've had a double bypass and stents put in, I've had the past of knowing. And I told Mary, I said, we got a medical problem. So you need to stop somewhere and find us a place to go to a doctor or someplace. And so she pulled in at the Dairy Queen at Omaha and asked them, she said, I think my husband's having a heart attack. And they said, well, there's a hospital right down here 12 miles away in Mount Pleasant. And so we started on the way to Mount Pleasant, and Mary was smart enough to call EMS, and they met us halfway. And when I came in, there was a whole, I've always wanted to ask them, how did they have that whole team of people? Dr. Abbas was there. I mean, there was, you'd have thought I was the president or something, that I was really somebody, because they had a contingent of people there to take care of me. And they didn't ask me my name. They didn't ask me if I had any insurance. They didn't ask anything. They rolled me in and they started hooking me up with IVs and doing these things like this. But they had a team there, and they were working just hand in hand. And a lady from the hospital sat with my wife, Kathy Griffith, which I had stents put in Minnesota in a similar situation, and my wife sat in the waiting room for an hour and a half, not having any idea whether her husband was alive or dead. And that's a tough situation for somebody to be in, and for the hospital there, for somebody to actually come out there and sit with her. And so I came out of I was in ICU, that was Friday, February 23rd, and I was in the 24th and 25th, and I was surprised that they hadn't let me go, because in Minnesota, when I had the stents put in, I left the next day and went back home the next day. But I didn't go home I wasn't going to go home until Monday. And then Monday morning, I flatlined or cold blue or whatever you do and stopped. I mean, I woke up and I had no idea where I was, who I was, didn't know I had gone out, and I had just gone completely out. And so they brought me back to consciousness. And then Dr. Abbas came in and he said, you need to have some type of device. We're going to send you to Tyler, care flight you to Tyler, but before we send you, you need to have a temporary device put in so that you make it to Tyler to have the defibrillator put in. So I said, okay. And so they took me back to the cath lab, put this temporary device on me so that they could restart my heart, I suppose, if it went out on the way. And they, like I said, they flew me to, care flighted me to Tyler. I mean, they almost had a going away party. I mean, there was the CEO of the hospital was there, Kathy was there, all these people were there, and they were all, you know, we're praying for you, good luck, and all this. And so we got to Tyler, and you know, it seemed like everything was good. The people there were unbelievable. You know, I've been fortunate or unfortunate, as you might say, with brain surgery. I had brain surgery in Fort Worth. I had a double bypass in Fort Worth. I had stents put in Minnesota. I've had shoulder and knee surgery in Phoenix. I've been in lots of hospitals and lots of places, but I've never been in a place that I was treated as well as I was treated at Titus Regional. I mean, they acted like you were really somebody, and I mean, that's just, and they didn't know your name, or they didn't know anything about me, and I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest with you, and they were unbelievable. And so, you know, to have as bad a situation as it was at my age and so forth, it really has been a positive thing just for knowing the people and getting to know, and the aftercare, you know, taking care of me after, you know, Dr. Abbas is still my doctor and always will be, you know, but that's something that's important because, you know, I think I'm on the mend, I think I'm doing well, so it's important for him to say, yeah, you are doing well.